Welcome back everybody, my name is Nick930 and this is a review for the survival horror game The Evil Within 2. The Evil Within 2 is a third-person survival horror game developed by Bethesda Softworks. It takes place in a fictional nightmare town called Union and features new enemy types, a more open-ended level design, and improvements to the overall graphic quality. Unfortunately, some poor writing, clunky controls, pathing bugs, and various other technical issues hurt an otherwise solid horror experience. So let's start by talking about the game's story. The Evil Within 2 takes place a few months after the events of the first game, with our protagonist, Sebastian Castellanos, drinking at a bar, depressed about how his daughter died in a fire several years before. What I don't understand is why we're only just now hearing about his daughter that he still has nightmares about. It seems overly convenient that Sebastian just so happens to remember his deceased daughter upon hearing that she might be alive, and is driven to enter the horrible dream machine like he did in the first game just to find her. Then, on top of that, we find out later that his wife spoke to him directly after the alleged death of their child and insisted that they look into a mysterious corporation that may have kidnapped the girl. So let me get this straight. Sebastian, a detective that has just recently been used by an evil corporation and thrown through absolute hell, is only just now piecing together that maybe the same evil corporation that his wife talked about all those years ago might be related to finding his daughter. It's just bad writing, and it's insulting to players that may have enjoyed the first game. Even when we ignore the major plot holes, there's some predictable events happening left and right throughout the story, and it's all something we've basically already played before. The gameplay does help to cover up the sloppy writing, with some interesting new open world areas to explore with plenty of creepy situations and a good variety in enemy type. The game features a lot of the same mechanics as the previous game, like the ability to rank up our character with special abilities that can be obtained by spending points at a weird restraining chair in the hub area. You can also craft weapon enhancements using weapon parts and also pick up ingredients throughout the world to craft ammunition. The weapons are mostly unchanged from the first game, with pistols, shotguns, sniper rifles, and the crossbow all making notable returns. But the one thing that really sets this game apart from the first is the open world areas I mentioned earlier. Most of the levels are linear, but there's a few levels scattered throughout that are much larger and offer multiple pathways and secret rooms and buildings to explore, with plenty of surprises waiting in each one. Enemies populate the world and will only appear at scripted moments, so killing enemies won't result in them respawning later on unless they're meant to for story purposes. Ammo is incredibly scarce, especially on the hardest difficulty, so making your shots count and using the right weapons for the right time is very important. Unfortunately, just like the first game, the aiming is incredibly awkward, and weapons just feel weak. A shotgun blast should completely obliterate these basic enemy zombies, but instead, it barely even hurts them until you upgrade the weapon substantially. I found that a lot of times, shots that were lined up perfectly in close range would go clean past a target, which would often result in me losing a large chunk of health or even dying instantly from a grab attack. Then there's the terrible movement. I don't remember the movement being this bad in the first game, but it's horrendous in this one. Running down a hallway just looks ridiculous, and Sebastian does this stupid light jog that doesn't even make any sense. He runs out of breath just going 4 feet, and then trying to maneuver around obstacles in the world is super awkward, and I found myself accidentally climbing onto and falling off of objects like cars all the time. Enemies can shake cars and knock you off, which is a cool design, but it looks so poorly animated that it feels like a last-minute addition. The game focuses heavily on stealth mechanics, but the slow movement speed, awkward default control scheme, and unpredictable animations make this a pain to deal with. There's even a scene halfway through the game that forces you to wear a gas mask that, for whatever stupid reason, switches the camera to first person, and it highlights just how terrible the controls really are. Taking cover by holding the right bumper, and if you're already taking cover and you're taking cover behind like 2 boxes lined up next to each other, you'll lose connection halfway through with that cover. It's just poorly designed, and I found myself constantly being frustrated by it. Then there's some poor designed boss fights that essentially turn into you running awkwardly around objects and shooting enemies hoping that it deals damage. The first fight I had with this huge lumbering mass of body parts seemed intimidating at first, until she clipped into an object and got stuck for a majority of the fight, giving me time to heal and plan my next attack. This wasn't the only time though. I found many enemies walking into walls and doing stupid things throughout the game that just killed the immersion. But we're not done. Now we need to talk about the game's PC performance and graphics. Now the graphics actually aren't bad at all. Character models look fantastic, and I especially like the texture work on Sebastian's clothing, along with some great designs for enemies. But the performance is total trash on PC. I'm playing with a GTX 1080 Ti and the game constantly stutters around every corner. It's an incredibly unstable experience and it kills an otherwise smooth game. Performance sits at around 80 FPS normally, but if you approach a new area or an enemy pops out at you, the game will stutter, killing any sense of immersion. It's been 2 weeks and the game has yet to receive a patch to fix this major widespread problem, despite even Digital Foundry calling them out on it. But the game is more stable than the previous title in the series when that launched, with a locked 30 frames per second and an annoying letterbox mode that thankfully Evil Within 2 doesn't force on its players. Overall, Evil Within 2 is a decent game plagued with a plethora of bugs and performance-related issues. The story is noticeably weaker and has some major plot holes, and gameplay suffers from several issues that hurt an otherwise good experience. The good news is, most of the issues I've had with this game could potentially be fixed with future patches. But because of that, I recommend waiting for a better sale for this game and picking up a better survival horror game this October. I hope this video was helpful, and if you want to see more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe for more reviews posted every week.